Do you see, both of you actually, and we can start with you, Asimbis, and because Ralph has talked about that we have to be in there. Do you see your role as important in helping the country and the continent achieve? How do you see your role, rather, in helping the countries and the continent achieve those goals? Because it's always being seen. I mean, we're living through such interesting times that sometimes when business gets involved, it's seen as business is controlling the agenda. How do you see your role?
Firstly, we need to be clear about the division of labor and the role of business. The role of business, or let me think about it as Standard Bank, because I'm employed by Standard Bank, believe it or not, is
Surprised.
surprise. So the role of business in society is to create products and services that society needs, and in doing so, create prosperity. And to do that, from a banker's perspective, we need the rule of law, so that when we lend money to MTN, they fail to pay us, we can either have a nice conversation with Ralph and they'll repay
Sim,
us.
we're
or
gonna pay
take
you.
them-
We're gonna pay you, Sim.
Because you see, there's like a bit of an underlying
There's an
message there.
underlying thing. Sim, you're good with us, I tell you.
Or the loan with Teva, then Teva, we lend him the money, we expect him to repay it because he's trustworthy and we have a relationship and we never have to rely on our contract. And as it happens, most of our customers meet their obligations as they fall due, and we never actually have to rely on our contracts. But when you rely on your contract, you need to be certain that the court system is going to work, that you're going to be able to recover your money, and so forth. So it's important. And in that context, Ralph and I have a duty to speak up when that rule of law and that ease of doing business is diminished. So that's the first piece. So when we do that, we're not being politicians, we're not being political, we're protecting our right to create products and services that society needs in order to generate prosperity. So that would be my first set of thoughts. My second set of thoughts would be to say a large part of our jobs also is to make sure that we create returns for our shareholders that adequately reward them for the risks that they take by being invested in us. An important part of that is country risk. So if we are here in South Africa and South Africa becomes a place where there's social dislocation, it increases the cost of capital and it makes it more expensive for our shareholders to be invested in us. So we have a duty to speak up when there's social dislocation. So that would be the second bit. And then the third one is then to participate in the formal structures that create the space for us to add value.
But
One of those,
the AUs.
well, it's in South Africa, or anyway, it's the public-private partnerships, B4SA
Yeah.
and government, for example, where both of us are signatories and participants. That's one example. The other example from a banker's perspective is PPPs, where the public and the private sector are in partnership to provide, transmission lines and provide the funding for those transmission lines. And then the last place, and we may come back to it, would be in places like the B20 and the G20.
I want to build on what you said, that you have to raise your voice, you have to participate. That do you find that you are being welcomed in those rooms, or you seem to be interfering?
No, we're welcomed. And but it, to build on to Sim's points, we have to be seen as a partner for progress, and we have to demonstrate that we are the social partner for the progress of the nation states. Because when the continent moves forward, what's good for Africa as a continent collectively is good for our businesses with the Standard Bank. And so we are self-invested in the success of the continent. We are being listened to. And I think we have to continue to be engaged in the one area I wanted to add to what Sim had said is, we also need to bring kind of perspectives, because no one has, monopoly on all knowledge. And if we think about the regulatory space, and I speak specifically for the telco industry, is, some of the regulations we have on the continent, are stuck in a different era. If I speak about telecommunication, I think I was quoted in Kigali 2 days ago and saying the telecommunications regulations we have are stuck in the voice era. So the voice era is 1994 all the way to probably 2009. The data revolution kicked off at about 2010 with 3G services, etc. But when you look at the regulations, when you visit lots of our countries, the regulations are still stuck in that era. They want 4, 5, 6 players in a market. All of these must be contributing to infrastructure and building. But the world has moved on from that. The US has 3 players for 300 million plus. China has 3 operators for 1.5 billion. India has 2.5 for 1.5. And what they've done is they've modernized the regulatory frameworks for today. And so these are some of the additional things we need to be embracing to say, if we're going to attract capital into these markets for the massive investment required to build the digital railroads for Africa, you've got to make it, to Sim's point, conducive for the investors to say, we'll put the next incremental dollar in Africa because we're going to see the return. Otherwise, the money will flow to Brazil for those who have emerging multiple outlets. So that conversation we have to have, with the perspective of Sim as shareholders globally, so he sees and engages. So we need to bring that to the table with our political leaders.
With the political leaders.